Jackson, Mrs. Jackson, Mr. Ambassador, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I arrived in New York just yesterday. No. Day before yesterday. And yesterday I was very busy at the United Nations, talking and attending meetings. And today I asked what was my program. And I was told that I had to come here this evening. Just before I left, I said, well, what is the program all about at the college? I was told, oh, you are going to be attending a reception. And we went to the reception room, had some drinks, and a little food to eat. And then I thought that was all. Then they said, oh yes, there is this little gathering you've got to speak. And I said, well, what do I say? I said that to myself. And then in the process, I reminded myself about something that a professor once told me when I was a student at university. He said, my boy, whenever you're asked to speak, get up, speak up, and shut up. Well, Mr. Convener, you have asked me to speak. I got up. But before I do so, however, I should like to just share one or two things with you. First, my main purpose for coming to New York at this point in time was to explain to the world body that the people of Sierra Leone who have the right to select their leaders had done so in an election last year. And that a group of people who are motivated by greed and the determination to further destroy our country have decided to steal that right from the people. And that the people of Sierra Leone decided not to accept that situation. Indeed, and I tell you this is the truth, over 85% of the professionals of Sierra Leone decided to walk out of the country, abandon their country, abandon their homes, because they said that they were not going to allow anybody to steal their democratic principles and their democratic rights from them. Those that remain in the country, and this is unique in the history of Africa, those that remained in the country decided that they were not going to cooperate with that regime. It was an illegal regime. It was a regime that had decided to unleash brutality, mayhem, killing of people, raping of women, and killing of children and old people, that they just couldn't stand cooperating with such a regime. Mayhem, killing of people, raping of women, and killing of children and old people, that they just couldn't stand cooperating with such a regime. And they didn't stop there. They would confiscate properties belonging to people who have never been in politics have never had anything to do with a government. Just, and they didn't stop there. They would confiscate properties belonging to people who have never been in politics, have never had anything to do with a government. Just hard-working people, just honest people, just people who decided to go straight, to work hard, to build up a family, and they destroyed everything that those people had worked. So for these reasons, they decided that they were not going to accept it. They would rather go and live as refugees in neighboring territories. I would have gone to town, spent hours in narrating to you some of the brutalities that these people have really unleashed on our people. But I do not want, perhaps some of you have read what I said, some of you probably heard what I said, and I would invite you to answer my speech at the General Assembly from the Sierra Leone's permanent mission to the UN. I'm sure they will make it available to you. But briefly, I should like to say that Sierra Leone has been deprived of basic democratic principles for about 30 years. The last 4 was a military dictatorship. All the abuses associated with military dictatorship, all those were just really just exposed to the people. People suffered all the consequences flowing from those. For that reason, I'm sure my wife, when she came here, spoke to you. She probably explained the role that the women played in making sure that we Sierra Leoneans will never tolerate a situation that is short of democratic principles. You see, for the past 30 years, those people who indulge in this type of practice to deprive the people of their rights, their main preoccupation was their own self-interest. And because they were trying to seek their own self-interest and to protect that interest, they were prepared to do anything. First thing was that the women of Sierra Leone decided that enough was enough. And even with the threat of shooting them down, with the possibility of losing their lives, the main preoccupation was their own self-interest. And because they were trying to seek their own self-interest and to protect that interest, they were prepared to do anything. First thing was that the women of Sierra Leone decided that enough was enough. And even with the threat of shooting them down, with the possibility of losing their lives, to the street, demonstrated and resisted the building. Now, when they failed in this, they had to move on. Then they decided, all right, what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that people did not vote at the elections. They didn't go near the vote. When Mr. Wai was speaking just now about people going to vote in this country, notice that you all were very, very pleased about that. But what these people did in Sierra Leone was, they would cut off the hands of people who were going to vote. Yes, they did that. To prevent people having the privilege of having their own personal hygiene without the aid of anyone. This is a very, very private thing that you have to do. Believe me, just seeing you go into the polling booth, the thought of these two, that's it. Others that were more lucky were branded with hot iron. That's how callous, how wicked they were. Now, the people decided to resist all that. They said they will not bow down to all the violence, the intimidation. They really went right through all that and decided that they were going to the polls to vote for the people that they wanted to lead them. We're not going to accept the verdict of the people. They have no rights in deciding who should rule them. The only right, the only group of people who have the right to decide who should rule the people of Sierra Leone are those who have the guns and who have machetes to shoot down people until just maim them. So they decided that the best thing to do would be organize a coup d'etat. And I want to say this one thing, which is very, very clear to people who have really been studying the situation in Sierra Leone, to observe the elections. Thank you. They declared that the election was free and fair. Free and fair, and that it represented the will, the free will of the people of Sierra Leone, and therefore they expressed the view that it was going to usher in a new era of democracy in Sierra Leone. That was what you people said.
Very sure.
They didn't know that there were people who were plotting and saying, oh, this won't work. Well, let's give them some time. 3 months after, there was an attempted coup. First coup, 3 months after the new government had been settled in. After the first free and fair elections that came under the most severe scrutiny to make sure that it was transparent and it was regular. And I tell you one thing,